Maybe you don't know how to fillet them, but you know, this is happening. So a few hours together.
grab one of the programs, I invite you to grab one right now up there. That nigun, that wordless melody, was written by Rabbi Josh Rosofsky, who I'm told was one of David's favorites. And certainly I spoke to Lynn and Craig earlier this week, and they said that was some of the music that was being played in the hospital just this past week as well. This is Cantor Jacob Namey. My name is Rabbi John Prosnet. The pain of this moment seems almost too much to bear. Loss, certainly, but this loss. And mourning, of course, but now, grief so hard to come by. There are few sources of comfort other than the presence of friends and family who have come to be together this afternoon and show how deeply that they have been impacted by the quality of this unique and remarkable person. We also send a welcome to all of those who are joining us on the live stream. We can feel your presence here as well. And no doubt it's the sad news of David's death that brings us together, but we do know that it's the quality of his life that makes us want to be here. We know we honor him best by focusing less on circumstance, but more by sharing stories on what he meant to each of us. Many of you knew the privilege of what it was to be his friend. And wherever his path touched you, you knew you were in the presence of someone special. When we don't know what to do or what to say, we gather together and we turn to the words of our tradition, words that may offer some comfort. We show up to support our loved ones, to acknowledge that death does not get the last word. We don't know where to be, so we are here. We are especially here this afternoon with Craig and Lynn and Sophia and the other extended family. So we'll offer a few prayers, we'll hear a few stories, and we'll delight and remember David. Join with me in the reading of Immortality on the front of the program. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow, sunlight on ripened grain. When you awake in the morning hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the soft stars shine at night. Do not stand by my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Cantor Nami will lead us in the singing of the words of Psalm 93, Adonai Ro'i, and then we'll read it together as a community.
Mizmor David. Adonai Ro'i lo echsar, binot teshear bitzeni, al mei menuchot inach aleini, nafshi eshovev, yancheni v'maklei tzedek leman shemo, gam ki eleich v'geitz al mavet lo irara ki ata imati. Shivtecha u'mish'antecha hema yenachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorerai, dishanta v'shemen roshi, kosi revaya, ach tov v'chesed hirdefuni, kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamin.
Together, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. One more reading together. To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, a time to harvest. A time to tear down, a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh. A time to grieve, a time to dance. A time to embrace, a time to stand alone. A time to seek, a time to lose. A time to hold on, and a time to let go. A time to rend, a time to mend. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. In Judaism, traditionally at funerals, we read the words of Ecclesiastes of Kohelet, the words we just read. It's a powerful poem from the book of Ecclesiastes. There is a season for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a season for joy or a season for sorrow, a season for birth and a season for death, a time to weep and a time to laugh. Perhaps they bring some people comfort at certain times in their lives. But today, that's much harder. Because let's be clear, it was not David's time. We are certainly aware of juxtaposing emotions, and we know that life is filled with contrasting dynamics of burdens and blessings. But the suddenness of David's death and the pain of this moment seems almost too much to handle. So this afternoon, let there be no whispering, no masking our pain. We should not be here. Not now. Our hearts are broken. Funerals are times when we look back on a life, and we look at its ups and downs, opine on whether it was long enough or too short. But today we don't really even have long enough to look back on. So inevitably we focus on life not lived, the future abruptly cut off. Every death is sad, no doubt, and every death leaves a hole in our hearts and in the heart of the world. But deaths like this, too young, only 23 short years, are simply not supposed to happen. Not to people we love, not to a person with promise, not to our David. And while there are no words, we know that we must speak, for as sure as our pain has brought a river of tears in the grief, the immeasurable grief we share, we think that God must be crying too. So when we speak and when we share stories and when we're together, we defy death with the power of one life. For the devastation of this loss cannot have the last word. We speak and we sing and we cry and we laugh because the gift of one person's presence bespeaks a love that is not silenced, a love that will not be lost, because we won't let it. One thing we do know about David is that he loved this place. He loved coming to Temple Bethel. His bar mitzvah 10 years ago was one of the highlights of his life. Many of you were there. He liked being in this building, a place where he felt loved and cared for, and he cared for and loved so many else. His confirmation picture is on the wall. TBE, a place in a community, a place that did not judge who you are, and where their full body and your full energy and all the joy that he felt for Judaism could be contagious. He loved Rabbi Beitch and Larry Cohn and Les Goldsmith, who's here today. Les told me a story the other day when we were talking on the phone, that when he would lead Shirah, the singing at Beth El, he and David developed a little pattern. After the song session had ended, David would come to the front and he would strum the guitar as Les played the chords, especially to Hine Matov, how good it is that brothers and sisters can come together. As he did this, David would have a full-body smile, but my hunch is Les did as well. David loved music with the fullness of his body and the fullness of his soul. Dolly Parton, Bruce Springsteen, Rabbi Josh Warshawski. What a great trio. Jewish music he loved. The joy he had for that music was infectious. Larry Cohn, who was the educator at Bethel for a generation, wrote me the other day. The religious school students were typically quite enthusiastic during the school service hakafot, but the leader in enthusiasm was David Renner, glued to the moving Torah as he rolled his way around the sanctuary and wearing a mile-wide smile as Les strummed his guitar. David was Ruach personified. Lynn and Craig, his loving parents, and Sister Sophia were ideal teammates of temple staff in creating David's bar mitzvah service, a combination of tradition and technology. One message of David's life was how open and caring a temple can be and how joyful Judaism can be. Bethel continued to benefit from David's love of Judaism and his desire to be part of the community. Each Thursday, he would come here quietly, which is something I gathered is a little bit rare for David, and he would switch our yard site, our memorial plaques. He helped prepare our community for Shabbat. On some level, this action epitomizes the highest possible mitzvah, action without recognition, selflessly done on behalf of both individuals and on behalf of a community. It fulfilled the mitzvah of hospitality. It fulfilled the mitzvah of remembrance. It fulfilled the mitzvah of community. And it fulfilled the mitzvah of comfort. That's where I first met David on one of my first Thursdays as rabbi at Temple Bethel, switching our memorial plaques, delighting in people, and delighting in Judaism. I think each of us has an image of David that probably has been lingering in our minds since we first heard the sad news last week. Support is one of the defining images of David. Yes, he supported us in his own way, but the one thing we can take from David's life is that we need support. Doctors and nurses and teachers and aides and family friends and support groups, and of course, family. Lynn told me the other day about David's experience in Little League, where he was supported by coaches and other students as he went around the bases. It's not cliche. It really does take a village to raise a 23-year-old. And I know that David has been blessed with so much support. To all of David's cousins and uncles and aunts, Andrea, Jody, Joseph, and John, Bob and Ann, Sarah and Jared, Julia and Alex, and all the other people who have come from near and far for this moment, our hearts are with you. We know how much you love David, and your presence here is a tribute to him and a support for so many. Sophie, there's no relationship like a sibling, a sister, the most sacred of bonds. Our hearts go out to you and to your parents, Lynn and Craig. We are so sorry. We know that the world is not right. We know the hole in your heart is real and wide open. What words can we offer you to make you feel better? What words should we avoid to not make you feel worse? And there are no words. So we are here in our silence, here next to you, as David was for so many. Knowing the world is not quite right, what do we fear most with David's passing? More than we fear for our family and friends, that they will find a way through the strength and love we share to make it through, knowing that he is gone. What we fear is that we won't be able to keep David's memory alive. So, Lynn and Craig and Sophie and everyone who loved David, all of us, we all make this pledge. Unspeakable as losing your son or your brother or your nephew or your cousin or your friend is. We won't let his spirit die. We'll mourn this loss for as long as we live, and this Beth El community will too. But that won't stop us from cherishing his life and from making his legacy our own. Good night, sweet prince. May flights of angels take thee to thy rest. A poem by Henry Scott Holland. Death is nothing at all. I've only slipped away into the next room. I am I and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the same easy way which you always did. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be the household word that it ever was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the shadow of a ghost on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am just waiting for you, for an interval somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. We invite forward David's parents, Lynn and Craig, to offer a personal reflection at this time.
David John Renner, our beautiful son, was a happy, intrepid explorer of his world. He was always ready to learn new things and to take on new challenges. He liked to explore new places, to go on walks in Pheasant Branch, Tiedemann Pond, or spend time at the Sherman family cabin in Balsam Lake. With David, we went to Yellowstone, to Rocky Mountain National Park, and to the beaches of California and Florida. When he was younger, he was able to use a walker and a standing desk, and also developed the capacity to use communication devices and switches for turning off and on electric devices. For his 8th grade science fair, David and I learned a lot about wind energy. With his switch, he was able to power up our homemade wind turbine. We kept that science fair project for years, and we talked about it often. When we passed the wind turbines on Highway 12, he would show us through his smiles that he remembered and enjoyed that project. During his freshman year at Memorial High School, David received the latest model of a new eye gaze device through the Weissman Center. His wonderful support team of special education teachers and assistants and occupational and speech therapists were amazed at how quickly David was able to navigate the menus and icons on his new Dynavox. A miracle had happened with David. David now had a voice. Now he could tell us more about what he wanted, what he needed, and communicate with his support workers. He often used his Dynavox to greet people or to ask to see someone. And in the last several years, he loved using his eye gaze with us and our respite workers at home. And most importantly for David, he could tell us when he wanted to enjoy a music video and select from a list of his favorite artists and bands. His fascination with exploring many different musical styles was connected to the strumming and the plucking of acoustic and electric guitars, banjos, and yes, even the ukulele. There were many challenges, frustrations, and serious health scares that David and our family experienced over his 23 years. However, our relationship with David was not that he was somehow just a responsibility or a burden. His irrepressible and joyful embrace of life was a gift to all who knew him. The greatest blessing of our life with David were the bonds of love and joy and happiness. With our immediate and extended family members, it was so rewarding and so inspiring. He had a great capacity to express his enjoyment with just being with family and familiar people, in laughing hilarious at jokes, at our silly accents, wearing cowboy hats, looking at CDs and playing them on his boombox. Again, his capacity for joy and happiness and his ability to deeply express his love for our immediate and extended family was profound. And to paraphrase a Will Rogers quote, David never met a person he didn't like. For all of us who cared for him, you must know that we gained more and we learned more. And we were loved more by David than any one of us could possibly have given to him. May his memory be a blessing.
I'll try to hold it together. First, I want to thank you all for being here, for supporting us these last few weeks and throughout David's life. We just, I don't know how else to express my love and my appreciation for all of you. I also want to say to Sophie, thank you. We love you and admire your courage and your compassion you've always had for David, and your maturity, especially over these last few weeks. I'll kind of repeat some of the things that Craig said, but as you all know, we all had challenges, and David certainly experienced many challenges during his life. There are many ups and downs, and especially early in his life when we thought we might lose David, even when he was a newborn. Despite his physical disabilities and the daily discomfort he often experienced and frustration that he probably also felt, David was such a happy person. His smile was contagious and he laughed often. It was his way of showing us that he recognized people. He enjoyed showing us that that the familiar music and the other things that brought him so much joy. And as the rabbi said, he definitely had an eclectic taste in music. And even this past week at the hospital, we played Dolly Parton, we played Bruce Springsteen, Debbie Friedman, and other Jewish music. It brought him comfort, and I have to say that music filled our house and filled our lives and brought all of us joy, along with David. As his mom and his caregiver for 23 years, David taught me so much. He taught me patience. He showed me that I was stronger than I thought possible, even when we were so sleep deprived. And also, he changed the trajectory of my career. David opened my eyes to the world of disabilities, that those who are non-speaking or non-ambulatory can lead full and meaningful lives. They can positively impact the communities around them and truly can make the world a better place. We miss you, David, and we love you. And I guess one other thing I was going to say is one of the things that I think my sister said to me that others have said is that just in the last 2 years, we lost our mom, Grandma Judy, who just adored David, and David adored Grandma Judy. And I have a lot of comfort that David is with Grandma. And it just makes me feel really really good that they can be there and she can be playing the piano for him and they can be enjoying wherever they are together. All right, thank you. And Bob, do you want to come up?
On Friday, Lynn and Craig honored me, Dave's Uncle Bob, with a request to say a few words today. As David and I, we had a connection. I don't know if I can get through these words without losing it, but I'm going to try. As a kid, I had a special relationship with my aunts and uncles. I cherished those times when my parents left me alone with them, allowing me the opportunity to develop my own relationship with adults that was free from the dynamics of parent and teacher interactions. Those relationships remain special to me to this day. And so, well, before I had my own kids, I never really pictured myself in the future, my future self as a father. But deep down, I always kind of wanted to be that kind of an uncle. David taught me how, but in ways that I never expected. Obviously, we were never able to do many of the things or interact in the same ways that would have been the case if my dear sweet nephew had not been constrained by his CP. When he was young, we didn't know the extent of his abilities or limitations. So how does one do this uncle thing in these circumstances? I had no idea. So I'd try things. I'd pay attention to him when others weren't. I'd sing with him. I'd play guitar to him. I'd read to him. I'd play with him. I'd dance with him. I'd get silly with him. I'd invent characters, the red bird of silliness and the Toesy monster. It's like Cookie Monster pretending to eat his yummy toast. Those were some mutual favorites. And I'd talk to him. And while he could never say a word back to me, he reacted. Oh boy, did he react. Engaging, smiling, laughing, deep whole body laughs. And those laughs, they were contagious. I've seen over 23 years all the giving and hard work and worry and sleepless nights, sacrificing that David's disabilities necessitated of Lynn and Craig and of Sophie. And I'm in awe of them for how they powered through it. I don't think I would have been strong enough to do the same. They never quit. They loved, they sacrificed, they gave. But David could and did give back. While he could never express so in words, his smiles and his laughs, his love of music, David exuded and shared joy. It was a gift that he could give, and he gave it back to those who loved him over and over. I've got a head full of special memories. I'm going to share just a couple of them. You know, because of David's CP, his legs would get really tight. And as his parents would, when I visited, I'd work with him to gently stretch his legs, extending and bending each leg. And when he got sufficiently limber, we'd have his feet dance on my belly. Good for someone else. David loved the pool. And especially when he was smaller, I'd love to tote him around the pool with him flying on my back, with his head right there next to mine, with me whispering like a tour guide in his ear, describing the things around him or making things up. Then there was the evolution of a physical intimacy, from when, holding hands when he was very young, to interlocking fingers, and later when his maturity and his grip strength, David is really strong, demanded something new, our bro-like man clasp while I chanted men, 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 always good for a great smile. And then there were the family sing-alongs with some seriously silly songs. Wherever you go, there's always someone Jewish. And most recently, the Bare Naked Ladies, if I had $1 million. Boy, did those get the full body laugh reactions. In later years, Lynn and Craig shared with me how David would get really excited at the mention of Uncle Bob, or when they told him that I was coming to visit. I can't begin to put into words what that meant to me. If hearing the mention of my name could generate such excitement from him, wow. That sweet young man gave me such a wonderful gift. What could possibly feel better? In our Jewish faith, we don't believe in life after death. But during the restless night after hearing that David had passed on, I half dreamed and half imagined that he'd gone to a better place. And in that place, he was no longer fully dependent on others. He had control of his body, and he could express himself clearly. And a warm, intelligent, caring young man came shining through. And in that reverie, David spoke to all those special to him in a deep, articulate voice that in my dreamy imagination seemed so natural, declaring his boundless gratitude to his parents, Lynn and Craig, for all the love, the toil, the joy, the support, and the selflessness of their lives together. How lucky he felt to have grown up in such a loving, caring family and community with the best parents he could have hoped for. He thanked his deeply caring little sister Sophie for the company, the companionship, the support, for being the best sister he could have imagined. And he implored all three of them, please go forward and give each other the time, the attention, the love that so often took a back seat during his life. Live with joy, explore passions and places and experiences and tastes and people, and bring me along for the ride. Because David would always be there right with them in their hearts, sharing the joy in each of those moments. Those words seem so authentic. Maybe it wasn't my imagination. David, my dear nephew, I miss you. I love you. You'll always be with me. Thank you.
Such a song that was in David's heart. It was so clear to everyone who interacted with him. Every smile, every laugh was him singing out his own joy, his own strength. So I want to share just another tune by that person that Rabbi Prosnit mentioned earlier, Rabbi Josh Warshawski, who's a friend who wrote this song that talks about singing out divine and holy strength and love. And as I'm offering, I want just for us to all think about what are the ways in which we're going to go forward and let our words, our actions be ways of continuing to sing David's song. Vani ashir uzecha va'aranein laboker chastecha ki hayita miskafli umanos biyom sarli. As for me, I'll sing of your strength, and I will sing your love to the morning. For you shelter me when the days are hard to bear. Ani ashiru zecha va'aranein laboker chastecha ki hayita miskafli umanos biyom tzali uzi eilecha azamera uzi eilecha azamera. Oh, my strength, I sing to you, I sing to you, I sing to you. Vani ashiru zecha va'aranein laboker chastecha ki hayita miskafli umanos biyom tzarli. Vani ashir uzecha va'aranein laboker chasdecha ki hayita miskafli umanos biyom tzarli.
At the conclusion of the service, I'm going to ask everyone to please allow the immediate family pathway to their cars. We're heading to the cemetery immediately after the service. I know the instinct to hug and comfort fills this room, but we also do have to contend with a little bit of logistics. So if you can hold back just a little bit as they head out. One way that we can, though, continue to honor David's amazing legacy and his commitment is to reach out. So often in life, I think we remember a story or we remember an anecdote, remember a moment where David might have touched us, walking the halls of this place or, at a family gathering, and we smile, and then it sort of slips out of our mind. And I think one of the challenges for everyone here is that when that moment comes, and it will, and whether you're driving or walking the dog, is to actually pick up the phone or to actually write a letter and to say, I was just thinking about David today. This was on my mind. Send a text message. It's a way, the challenge that all of us can do to allow that spark of who he was to continue. Let's read together on the inside program, A Time for Remembrance. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember him. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we will remember him. When we have achievements that are based on his, we will remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. If you're able, I invite you to rise. Our cantor will chant the words of El Maleh Rachamim, the traditional Jewish morning prayer.
El Maleh, Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bameromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kizohar Arakia Masirim, Et Nishmat David ben Craig Velea, she'alach le'olamo, Bal harachamim, yastireu beseter kenafav le'olamim, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו. ונאמר, Amen.
May the Holy One of blessing, from whom all things come and to all things return, give us light and peace on this day of grief and mourning, and may our service of memory for David Renner, a loving son, a loving brother, a loving friend, a loving community member, bring us comfort and bring us strength. And we say together, Amen.
Amen.
Our service is complete. You can head on out that way as our family heads towards the cemetery.